of you don't know me yet, that was a fantastic lecture. I'm mad that I have to follow up now. Anyways, so today I'm going to be talking about wound vacs, also known as wound vacuum assisted closure. I didn't know that was an acronym until I was doing this research. First I want to say special thanks to Drs. Rivera, Carmelli, and Capadia for helping me kind of get this lecture set. So today we're going to talk about basically when do you need a wound vac, what is a wound vac, and then also how do you fix a broken one. What kind of wounds do you think, this is also going to have lots of audience participation, so what kind of wounds do you think require a wound vac? Maybe this one? No. Good, probably not. What about this one? So probably not, but if they have like diabetes and it becomes a chronic ulcer or something, then maybe. What about that one? Yeah, that's a diabetic foot ulcer. That's a very good for needing a wound vac. How about this one? Probably not. So as you can see, the skin's very well kind of approximated already, so most likely you'll just need some stitches and that's all that you would probably really need. What about this one?
It's an amputation.
It might need an amputation, correct. So I think it really depends what the surgeons are able to do. If the skin is able to be approximated well, then you might not need a wound vac. If the skin cannot be approximated, then you might need a wound vac. What about this one? Does anyone know what that is? Skin grafts, yeah. So skin grafts are also very well known to receive wound vacs. How about this one? So once again, it's a maybe. The only really two, not really absolute, but really two contraindications for having a wound vac are like exposed organ and or exposed arteries. So obviously there's exposed organ there, but maybe the surgeons, if they're able to pull the bottom fascial layer together, then possibly a wound vac could be used on top of it. But as it is right now, probably not. In order to kind of figure out why surgeons will use wound vacs, let's talk about different kinds of healing techniques. Dr. Newpain, what is healing by primary intention?
Just allowing the wound itself to close.
Or is it the other way around? So primary intention basically is when it's like sutures or staples. When we do something to basically bring the wounds together so that it helps to heal it more rapidly. Dr. John, what is healing by secondary intention?
That's when you allow the wound to close.
Correct. That is basically healing on what wounds do when they heal on their own. So basically a bottom layer of granulation tissue forms and heals from the bottom up. Dr. Tom, what about tertiary intention?
Combination. You leave it open for a little bit and then close it.
Good. So basically this is for wounds that are too large, or basically the skin is too tight, or etc., to have a primary intention closed immediately. So what you can do is you can kind of halfway close it, allow the granulation tissue to form, start closing by secondary intention, and then later you can go and finish closing the primary. So basically a wound vac can be used for pretty much any secondary or tertiary wounds, as long as it's large enough. So what is a wound vac? So a wound vac basically is a gauze or a sponge. Do I have a pointer? Yeah. A gauze or a sponge, basically with a whole bunch of clear tape to kind of make it airtight, attached to a tube and a machine. So the machine, depending on basically what kind of brand you use, they can do lots of things. They can basically monitor duration of suction. They can monitor that it's just go on to suction 4 times a day. It should go switch on and off. Some of the more fancy ones can even switch from suctioning out to instilling like an antibacterial liquid to basically help aid in wound care, and then would suction that then used liquid off. So it really just depends on the kind of the brand that you use and I guess whatever brand your hospital has. Surgeons and the companies, I guess, love wound vacs. They think it's the best thing since ANSEF. So they claim that it is all of these things. It draws wounds together, it brings out the edema, it brings out the bacteria, it promotes perfusion. I don't know how it does that, but it reduces edema, tissue micro deformation, I don't know what that is either, but they basically just say that it's the best thing ever. It's going to cure all wounds faster than anything else. Everyone should have a wound vac. However, several recent Cochrane reviews came out basically showing that there is no actual head-to-head RCT yet. So there's basically just no real data to prove that it does in fact work. One thing that it does actually prove is that it's drastically more expensive. Not a little bit, a lot more expensive than just traditional wound care. What do you do to fix it? How do you troubleshoot? So first I want to point out that, as I said, these wounds need changing every 24 to 72 hours. So in order for a patient to go home with a wound vac, they basically have to have a complex network of tech specialists, of nursing, wound care specialists, the actual company itself in case the machine breaks down, of the surgeons themselves. So basically any person that comes in with a wound vac, basically the only reason they'll come in is because their machine has had a catastrophic failure, or they're just very not medically literate and can't really, and weren't able to follow the instructions that they were given in order to fix their machine. In fact, the person that inspired this topic, his machine, he had just gotten a new skin graft. His machine broke at about 5 p.m. He had already called the company. They were already sending a new person with a new machine the following morning. He just didn't want to be without suction for about 15 hours and risk losing his skin graft. So he came to the emergency room, we placed him on obs for about 15 hours just so he could be connected to the wall suction, and then he was discharged the next day to go to his person to get his new machine. So the most important and probably easiest way to look at fixing a wound vac is basically the same kind of thing that we do when we're like with a beeping ventilator or respirator. The first thing you should always do is check the hardware. Basically figure out, check the tubes, check the gauze, check the tape, check the everything. Basically just kind of see if there's anything physically wrong with the machine itself. That will probably solve 99.9% of your problems. The other 0.01% you can talk to your surgical colleagues for. The machines also do a lot of beeping whenever when the canister's full, when the battery's low. They have a lot of alarms that basically go off whenever something's wrong. So, and some is with you checking the alarms versus you can also check, like I said, check all the hardware and things. You should pretty much be able to solve any problem that comes in because of a wound vac. So I have a little YouTube.
Leak, loss of suction, block, block tubing or improper dressing change,
Different kinds of alarms will go on.
battery life low, critical battery, unit needs to be plugged in or it will shut off, and lastly, canister full, canister needs to be replaced. The device itself will also instruct you on how to resolve each alert, but we will go into further detail in this video. In addition, we will have written descriptions available on our webpage. You can find the link to our webpage in the video's description below.
Should your device alert, you will hear a series of beeps. These are the same beeps you will hear for all of the alerts. To pause the alert, press the menu select button. The problem itself won't clear until the problem is resolved. Troubleshooting a leak alert. A leak alert means that the device is not performing properly and there isn't enough suction being applied to the desired area. This kind of issue can be caused by a couple of things, such as a poor dressing change or a bad canister. It also could be caused by a bad pump. In this troubleshoot, I have a wound simulation to go over one of these possibilities. The first step is to evaluate the wound. Watch as I push around the peri-wound edge. The reason why I do this is to make sure that the drape is properly sucked to the skin.
So I'm going to pause this real quick. That is what a proper wound vac looks like. So if a patient comes in and it's not suctioned down like that, something's wrong. As you saw, he basically just pushed around the edges until the leak was fixed. It may not reduce as drastically as that, but if it doesn't look like that, something's wrong. You should go through your steps to kind of try and fix it.
As you can tell, I found the leak, and the dressing is now properly being sucked down. The second step is to see if the pump has proper suction. We can verify this by clamping the lines as so. When you pinch the lines, check the bars on the device to see if they become green and full. This lets you know that the pump is functioning and the problem may be with the wound dressing itself. The next thing you can check for is the pump itself. Remove the back canister from the pump and locate the suction nozzle with your finger. Remember, when removing the canister, go from the top down and not the bottom up. Once you've located the suction nipple, place your finger over the back. Notice that the bars went to full green. If I remove my finger, it should go down to one red bar. This shows that your pump is definitely working.
I have no idea what that was next. Whatever. So that's obviously for a Genodyne product. There's other ones by Subtly and other different companies. And so they obviously will be a little bit different each one, but they'll have similar kind of mechanisms in order to fix or check. In review, wound vacs are widely used for outpatient and inpatient medicine to basically kind of heal any kind of large secondary or tertiary wound. And then if anyone with a problem comes in, basically you should check the gauze, check the tape, check the tubes, check the pump. If all else fails, you can call the company. They always have a 24-hour helpline, or you can call your surgical colleagues to come in and help you as well. Any questions?
So I get how to diagnose the pump. So you mentioned like just put your finger against the leak. But have you determined the problem with the tubing? All you have to do is find leak tubing, or?
So if you have an actual problem with the tubing itself, you'll probably I'd have to. So I was talking to our surgeons, and our nurse management office, basically, at least for Kings County, they don't give you these machines. Basically, the hospital owns them, and they are loaned out to patients that need them. And so the nurse management office actually has all of the extra tubes and taping and all that other kind of stuff. And so if you have a patient that comes in, like there's a hole in a tube or something, then basically you would just call the surgeons to get a new tube from the nurse management office, but that's how you would go about doing it. Any other questions? Nope. Those references. And thank you.